We're live.
All right. So, if somebody watching here on the camera wants to let me know how our sound quality is, the first thing I want to do is check the mics before we get rolling here. It's on Environmental Coffee House. It should still be shared on my page instantly through the live.
Here we go. In the field. Nope, that's earlier.
Nope. Okay. You'll have to go to Environmental Coffee House. And then we're going to find out if we got sound. Can we see comments in there at all?
We can see who's watching. Does anyone want to say hi so we can make sure we can see our comments?
I don't think I'll be able to see comments through that, so...
We can do it through another one of the systems.
You got it up, Nate?
I'm looking for it.
Okay.
So, coffee
yep,
house.
we got people tuning in.
All right, good. Everybody keep tuning in. Bear with us for a minute here. We got just a second. So scroll down and it should show the live.
It's slow. Oh, wait, no, I got to choose it first.
Yep, should show the live.
Okay, everyone says it sounds good, Desmond.
Okay, good. All right.
Naomi, much love.
Very good. Awesome. So I'm in Pinckney, Michigan, or Hell, Michigan, in one of those areas, in a location here with Chef, and I believe I tagged you. If not, I'll tag him, and also Jen. Today we had an opportunity to, myself and Nate, to come down here and have a look at Energy Transfer Partners Rover Pipeline. And I'm not going to take up too much of the camera time because I want to get some questions flowing for Jen and for Matt here. But it is a 42-inch fracked natural gas pipeline, and it moves a lot of gas.
A lot of gas.
It will move a lot of gas. It's currently under construction. Our estimate would put it at anywhere between probably 70 and 80% complete at this time.
Yes, that sounds about right. We haven't been able to get further out of this area. It's been so heavy in this one little 3-mile, 5-mile stretch.
Right, right. So I'm going to ask Jen to come in.
Okay.
Please share the video. Come on, Jen.
All right.
Have a seat. I'll sit behind the camera, and I'll ask some questions. All right. So, first of all, Jen, how long have you lived here?
I have lived here for 37 years.
All right. So you know the area pretty well.
Oh yeah, I know the area really well.
Uh-huh. And Matt, how about you, buddy? How long you been around here?
I'm from Michigan. I grew up about 45 minutes an hour away.
Okay.
So, I'm from a large family. So essentially in Michigan, you got a large family. Every place in Michigan is pretty much becomes your backyard. We love to get out to the lakes and the streams all over the place because Michigan's really a gorgeous state.
So this is your backyard.
This is
so
my
you're
backyard.
familiar with the area and everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're talking about Energy Transfer Partners, and we're talking about the Rover Pipeline. So maybe bring the viewers up to speed. What is the Energy Transfer, or ET Rover, however you prefer to call it, pipeline exactly?
The ET Rover Pipeline is a 713-mile natural gas fracked pipeline that runs from the Marcellus Shale down in West Virginia and Pennsylvania through Ohio up into Michigan, hooking up to the Vector Pipeline in Hull, Michigan, and then over to Canada to be shipped overseas, places around the world, potentially even back to California. Who knows, really?
So did you just say this is going to be shipped where?
Around the world and then back to California.
Okay. So that's kind of getting into a little bit of the benefits of the pipeline, I guess, when you start talking like this. But let's talk about how big this line is.
Mm-hmm. It's 42 inches.
You got something to show us how big 42 inches is? Pick it right up. Right up in the center of the... Okay.
42 inches.
So that's the pipeline. 42 inches. And lift it up a little bit more so the viewers can read what that says. All right. 1,500 PSI pipeline. And how much gas will this pipeline actually move from one day to the other?
Cubic feet.
3.25 billion cubic feet a day.
3.25 billion cubic feet a day. And I don't know if any of the viewers can really envision what that means, but I think we did a little bit of quick math earlier trying to, look at what liquid would look like at that volume, and it was roughly 23 or so million gallons per day.
That's a day.
Yeah.
I think we squared out that if you were to drain Lake Michigan using that
pipeline
amounts in that pipeline, it would take 60 days, abruptly.
So that's a big pipeline.
Yeah.
It's a lot of gas.
The biggest, I believe, for gas, yeah.
Okay. And where is it going to tie into?
I mean, it's not really, it's tying straight into the Vector pipeline, which is going out of this country.
And who owns Vector?
Vector is owned by Enbridge, our their favorite company.
And does Enbridge have a ownership interest in Energy Transfer Partners?
26%.
All right.
26%, I believe. All these numbers are, give or take, because all these things, nobody really likes to give you exactly all the information on everything, and it changes relatively daily. So we, amongst everything else, we try and keep ourselves as much abreast as possible, but once one company is in trouble, they sell it to the next company over, and to the next company over, and the next company over, and before you look at to the end of it, you'll notice that they're all part of the same company anyways.
Well, it's a lot to remember.
Yeah.
So let's get some questions going online here. If there's any questions from folks tuning into the feed, I'm going to continue to. Okay, Roger's made a comment. I see Rose is on there. Yeah. Ed, how are you? Want to say hi to everybody? Sandy, hi. I'm just getting a chance to see some comments now because I'm using Matt's tablet here. Tommy's watching. Very good. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in and watching, and if you could share this, get the information out there. These two have been working tirelessly for months upon months to educate the community. A lot of the residents, from my understanding, don't really understand this yet, correct?
Yeah.
No, they're hoping for out of sight, out of mind. They want it over, done with, out of their hair. That way they don't have to think about the dangers of it. Every day they see the pipeline around, it's a reminder that they're part of an incineration zone. This pipeline goes within, it's close, I think the closest we heard was 15 feet from a house.
15 feet. So this 42-inch pipeline runs within 15 feet of a residence.
That's what I have heard. What I have seen is the closest is about 40 to 60 feet is what I've seen with my own eyes, and visited a homeowner calling me to say, hey, look how close I am, what do I do?
Wow. And so what's an incineration zone for a 42-inch pipeline ramped up to 1,500 PSI?
2,000 feet.
2,000 feet.
2,000 feet. They actually say the safe evacuation zone is 3,300 feet, I believe.
So what would happen to this house that's 15 feet or even 60 feet or 100 feet?
Yeah.
What would happen?
It'd be incinerated. I mean, you're looking at beyond 2,000 feet that you'll see fire. Everything else would just be, they compared it to a tactical nuclear warhead.
Okay, now, that's massive, but if I'm a resident and I'm living within 100 or a couple hundred feet from this line, once it gets moving gas through it, I'm going to have some way of knowing if it's leaking, right? I mean, I'm going to smell it or something, right?
A train whistle is the best you got. There's no odorant in this pipe, so
Wait, no odorant?
No.
So, without odorant in this pipe, you absolutely won't be able to smell it.
Obviously, it's a lot of things will start as a small leak and then it'll get bigger and bigger. That's right. If you had odorant, at least you'd have some kind of warning sign. I believe I think the records that they have for who actually catches any type of gas leaks, they say that they have all these great technology to catch a leak automatically. I believe 20% of the time it's the pipeline companies. 80% of the time it's residents. And in this opportunity, the residents are not even going to have a chance. As a matter of fact, as part of their security system, they say if perchance you do hear the loud train whistle sound or anything, don't start your car, don't open up your phone, don't do anything that could cause any type of a spark whatsoever. So you can't really notify anybody. You can't jump in your car and try and drive away. All you could do is try and walk or run as fast as you can and hope that you can get out as fast as possible.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
You know, and the odorant is, you know, and people smell the rotten egg smell that you hear, you know, on your lines, that odorant is an added thing, that it's not a natural smell that's there. So for the most part, it's just going to, you'll hear a train whistle is the best we've heard.
So Wendy says, the quote from the county emergency manager regarding pipeline issues: "You will hear a loud whooshing sound, then shelter in place."
I'm not sure why you'd shelter
How
in place.
do you shelter in place if you're within an incineration zone?
You know, it's kind of like when they go back to the 60s and they talk about the bombing and how the kids in the 60s basically would say, if the bomb goes off, to get under your table and put your heads over your, duck and cover. Okay? Nowadays, we realize, looking back at time, that just seems like it was dumb to do in case of a bomb.
Right.
But they're still telling you to do the same thing.
So approximately how many residents does this pipeline affect?
Ooh.
Boy, from
The whole line?
Well, I mean, throughout this area.
this area,
Yeah. Throughout your community here.
The reason
hundreds.
The reason why they chose the Silver Lake community in order to put them into an entrapment zone was because that as a year-long residency, their number was under 2,000 people.
Okay.
Okay, and that allowed them to put a non-odorized pipeline within 300 feet of these people's houses. Now, Silver Lake area is probably 50% vacationers. There's a YMCA kids summer camp that's there that's got 150 kids there every single day.
How close does the pipeline run to the YMCA camp?
So I think they 300 feet.
Yeah.
300
feet, maybe even
300
250 if you were to go straight through the mountain.
Yeah.
But earlier you said a couple thousand feet is the incineration zone. So the pipeline is going through an area where there's a kids camp, and it's only 200 to 300 feet away from it.
So in that area you're looking, like I said, as year-long residents, 2,000 residents. This goes 713 miles total. So I mean, it's hard to quantify even how many residents. You're looking at probably 1 million overall.
But from start to finish, it's several hundred miles.
713 miles.
713 miles. And it's 42 inches.
That's
the
correct.
entire length.
The entire length. There's a couple spots in Ohio that actually splits up into two. So you got side by side 42 inches. Do not believe that they multiplied it in this 713 miles. I think it's straight 713 miles from start to finish, not necessarily in pipe.
So here's a question, and I'll let you take a stab at it if you feel comfortable answering. If not, I'll do it as well. But Brittany asks, out of curiosity, what would cause it to start leaking?
Faulty welds. The weak points are in the welds. That would cause. That's a weak spot. That 811 misdig. If somebody doesn't call that 811 misdig, they could hit this, and it would cause it to rupture. San Bernardino explosion, I think, was due to someone hitting the pipeline and caused it to explode. So always remember to call 811 because there could be a 42-inch fracked gas pipeline under your feet. What else?
I don't even know it. Well, any type of earthquake.
Yeah.
I mean, any type of natural disaster.
Which we just had last year or the year before in Michigan. We felt it. That could cause the shifts in the pipeline as well for it to leak.
And as we all know, as them doing it, this is essentially creating a superhighway for fracked gas. So they're opening up the market so that they can essentially frack everywhere. One of the big concerns everybody has with fracking is that it causes earthquakes. I mean, it basically changes the pressures in the ground system, causing the plates to shift. And so there's been a lot of earthquakes in areas that have not been normal to them. So they're getting more random and common in a lot of areas that never really had them before. California, we're used to worrying about earthquakes. When they start happening in Michigan, which has already happened, we began to have them in Michigan.
Also, you could get a leak we have so many wetlands here and watery areas that the
happened?
pipe could
Hold on,
eventually
guys.
start leaking.
I think I lost my sound. Is my sound back? I think I lost my sound for a minute. For whatever reason, my battery died on my mic system.
Do I need a backup
Do we have
battery?
sound again? Let's find out.
You can turn that volume up on there.
Someone says
You're
we're
good.
good.
Roger says you're good. Okay, thanks, Roger. Lost my mics. The batteries died out, so I'm going to have you guys speak up.
We got backup batteries.
Yeah, lost the 9-volt, went down, so we'll just have you speak up.
Good. Okay, they can hear us good. All right.
I'm good at projecting my voice.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you want folks watching the feed right now to know? What are you guys? What's your end game here? What's the mission? I know you've been spending a lot of time in the community trying to educate the community on what lies in their backyard. But what's your end game? What's your mission here? Suggestions like odorants. Are you going to be okay with that?
I mean, I'm not really happy with anything other than it coming back out of the ground, personally. This has been a prime example of being able to witness and observe pipelines so closely that we get to see all of the things that they have not studied. You can see how they're having trouble with the waterways, troubles with the sediment, troubles with their system that normally a lot of times you're not able to see them. So the pipeline companies are managed by themselves. They're essentially their own teacher in a lot of regards. So it brings up a lot of awareness of problems when they're building these pipelines all over the place. This has been a great tool to be able to educate ourselves as well as everybody else. And with the new spill actually getting out there and reaching out to the local community, the county commissioner's offices, the water resources department, people that thought that all these things were being watched and monitored, but then when something happens and they realize, wait a second, it wasn't the pipeline company that noticed anything. This spill that happened, we found it, okay? There was gasoline in the water. MDEQ came out, told them, hey guys, there's gasoline in this water. They said, oh no, that's just swamp gas. The next person came out the next day. This is gasoline in the water. Oh no, that's swamp gas.
That's what the rover worker.
The
was
rover
saying.
worker kept on trying to say.
It was swamp gas.
Hey, the following day, MDEQ filed a violation notice on them, and then Rover claimed that they finally shut down the pumps at 7 o'clock at night. And Rover said, well, they were voluntarily shutting down the pump. Now, the MDEQ told the guy from Rover the day before, this is what you do in the case of if there's gas in the water, you need to filter it through a carbon filter system. You have to apply for the permit. All of their decisions beyond this are common sense.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to believe that there was anything in it. They continued to pump it. It continued to go from the wetlands straight into the stream, into Portage River, which feeds our whole Huron River watershed.
So before the viewers start asking questions about that, because you kind of segued into it.
Sorry, I
no, that's fine. That's fine. I wanna make a couple of points. And so perhaps folks, and I don't see this question, but folks might be wondering, what is he talking gasoline in the water? So let's back up to this construction process. Talk us through what's currently going on with the dewatering and the plume.
All right, so in the process, whenever they're going through a wetlands, they have to do this heavy dewatering system. Okay, and essentially what they're using is a simplistic well system, 20-foot wells, and they line what they're going to lay the pipe in with the wells. So we counted, maybe 68 per side today? So if you were to imagine Moses parting the sea, okay, between the stream, that's what they're doing. They're dewatering the area so they can lay the pipe down in there without it filling with water again, because they're in our waterways, and these pipes are going to be constantly laying in our waterways. In that process, they're pumping all the water out of the ground, and they're going into another straw or hay bale containment area where it's designed to leak slowly back into the ground so that you're not displacing the groundwater. It's going back in that same area, and it's got a sediment net in it that allows you to catch different sediments, say if they're pumping out and they're doing welding in the area and there's a bunch of heavy metals in it or whatever. In that system, as we noticed at several systems, that they're either pumping too much water or the system's broken or they're just not sure how much water they're going. They have had a tendency to overflow a lot straight off the top. So when we noticed one of them, the one day we went back on the next day to check on it because it was also caved in sediment net. Their easements are commonly lined with sediment nets so that the sediment doesn't continue to go outside of their easement and they don't run into the wetlands next to it and fill in the wetlands. It was dumping over the side of it, and we went to check on the next day and we noticed the smell of gasoline coming from the stuff that was dumping over.
So the basin they created for dewatering was overflowing into a wetland, which drains into a creek, and it smelled like gasoline to you.
Correct.
Okay, so then what did you do?
We called the EPA and the MDEQ.
Okay.
Called whoever we could in the MDEQ that we pretty much had their names on almost speed dial at this point in time because we've been talking to them a lot.
Because it wasn't just gasoline smell in one specific location. The entire area, in the road, up everywhere smelled like gasoline. More strongly the water discharging, but it was very gasoline, odorous air everywhere.
So in a big area, not like a
big,
gas can or something.
Yeah,
but
big area.
Okay.
And we took a sample of it. You know, stayed on the outside of the easement, out of the flow.
Right.
Got some water bottles. We know they're not, you know, it's not something, but at least, you know, it may not hold up in court, but at least we can self-confirm what we believe and think that we're not crazy, and have other people look at it and go, oh. So MDEQ, we went out there about noon that day. That was October 11th. That was Wednesday, October 11th. Mm-hmm. Their soil erosion guy came out that evening. He showed up at 5 o'clock.
And he showed up to take samples?
No, just to confirm.
Okay.
Apparently he didn't show up to take samples. We hoped that maybe he would. He did not. Nor did Rover's people. Nor did their third party. There was a third party there that evening.
And all this time, the dewatering was still pumping.
Still pumping.
Smelling of gas.
And what was the weather like?
That day it was raining.
So it was raining as well.
We actually think the day before when I saw it overflowing, it was not raining. It's possible that the rain actually helped us to notice it because it made all the gases heavier. Something like gasoline is very light, so it lifts up into the air rather fast and it'll dissipate. Mm-hmm. So the rain actually made it even easier to notice because, you know, gasoline smell, you know, you've heard things spill with diesel and other things. Gasoline isn't normally something you're looking for in this construction process because none of the gear even runs on gasoline, I don't believe. So we were a little on the shocked side when we had first noticed it.
Okay. And eventually somebody did come and take samples aside from yours? I mean, or was it just yours?
The soil erosion guy came on and he came in and also concurred, okay, that really does smell like gasoline. The Rover gentleman said, no, that's just, you know, natural smelling swamp gas, natural smelling. So the next day, the R&R team, which is remediation and redevelopment team from MDEQ, came out.
And MDEQ is Michigan Department of Environmental Quality.
Correct.
For viewers that aren't familiar.
It's essentially our local EPA in the state of Michigan because we have so much land that nobody really knows about and needs so much protecting. Michigan runs the front lines on being able to protect their environment, only backed up by the EPA.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then the following day, when the R&R girl came out to actually take the actual samples.
Brings us to the 12th, right?
That brings us Thursday the 12th.
Thursday the 12th.
October 12th.
She came out, very lovely lady. She took samples from the different areas. She actually accepted to even take my sample. Just as a comparison, poured in. She told the Rover guy as well, it smells like gasoline.
Were you standing there when the Rover guy tried to tell her that it was just swamp gas?
I was not.
Oh.
The only time I was standing next to the Rover guy was when she first came up and he said, "Who's this guy?" And she said, "Well, he's some kind of he's just a local resident looking out." And she says, Well, I don't care. All I care about is how the hell he got that picture.
So he was concerned about your picture, not concerned about
No.
Yeah.
whatever the smell was originating
No.
from. Okay, so fast forward us then to, have we received results
We have.
on the water?
We have received our first set of results.
Okay, do you remember any of the figures, any of the data there?
Oh.
I know that benzene showed up on there.
Benzene, ethylbenzene, trimethylbenzene.
Yeah.
I'd have to have more notes. This is something new I'm learning a lot about.
Sure.
We got a couple people on here that know some of our facts. Wendy or John, if you have any, back up our thread here with any information if you'd like.
Okay.
I believe benzene was at 4.9, and the most tolerable rate is 5.0 before it's in an emergency.
So, less than, I mean, you're right there.
You're basically right there. Of course, benzene's not supposed to be in water, period.
Yeah, there's no safe level for lead or benzene.
And I believe this was probably recorded in micrograms per deciliter. These values we're talking about for the viewers.
Which there's the huge factor of dilution to these tests. This is tons of water, literally tons of water flushing through the contamination site. So it's highly diluted at those test numbers, which is concerning.
Yeah, let's back up a little bit to what we noticed on Thursday when Rebecca was there, essentially, was that a gentleman came up to the easement on Wednesday when we were talking to the MDEQ, and he happened to live at the corner place. And Jen, from being a resident here, it used to be a party store, says, you know what? Did that happen? It used to be a gas station? He said, yeah, it did used to be a gas tank station. He gave us some of the history and said, basically, I remember seeing the tanks get removed in the early 80s.
So how far would this old abandoned gas station be then from the dewatering site?
About 150 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty close.
So then I'm going to try to sum it up real quick. So you have 2-inch wells along the pipeline route in probably 140 of them within a 150-foot stretch of the pipeline route, where they're sucking water from 20 feet, so they're sucking the groundwater out to keep the area dry so they can install their pipe. And they're moving this water into a hay bale structure, which is a dewatering structure. That's the technical name. But what that's supposed to do is contain the water like a pool, but then let it slowly migrate back into the groundwater table. And what was happening is they were pumping so much that the water was overflowing the dewatering structure, making its way into the wetlands area and back into the creek, and you smelled gas, called the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, who sent a soil erosion guy with no testing equipment, came out and said, yeah, that smells like gasoline. Had a little bit of a dispute by the sounds of it from the pipeline worker who said, no, that's swamp gas.
That was the on-site rover environmentalist.
Okay, so the on-site environmentalist for Energy Transfer Partners. And the following day, the R&R team or staff came out and actually took water samples. And now you have those results. And
Correct.
those results have confirmed that there's gasoline there.
Correct.
And within 150 feet is an old gas station. That we've heard the tanks have been removed. We have heard that. I looked at the site today. It does look like they had an asphalt cap over the tank area, and I can see cuts. So it does look like they did cut the asphalt at some point in time, and did remove tanks. But those tanks could have been leaky tanks.
They could have been leaky. There could be another one down there we don't even know about.
Or there could be another one in there.
We're really
Might have been
unsure.
2,
We're just
three.
trying to figure that out at this point in time. The first step is to realize that there is definitely a problem.
Now, in this water quality samples they did and they sent off to the lab, did they look for lead? Because the pumps that are still there, which are hidden and concealed by a privacy fence, today I seen them, and they say leaded gasoline on there.
So the first set of test results, they didn't. I think they're doing a special test just for the lead. Most of the test samples came back as non-available because they weren't focused on the lead at this point in time. I think the lead was almost an obvious test. So all of these test samples went in Friday, October 13th.
Okay.
We're close to the end of the month now. We're on the 30th or even the 1st. Maybe today's the 1st.
Today's the 2nd.
The 2nd. So we're hoping that they have some results back for the lead by now. I was told that the lead samples were not even started until this last Friday. Week and a half ago, I believe, was when they were said the lead tests began. Some people from MDEQ said, you know, honestly, it could be anywhere from 1 to 6 weeks until test results get returned. I have seen a lot more test results taken than I've seen results for, which theoretically would tell me that there are more things that are going to be returned. They have not tested for everything yet.
But what we know right now is there was definitely gasoline coming out of the dewatering
Definitely petroleum
structure.
products in there. It was very marked heavily with sheen, even on both on site through the samples.
Okay. And chances are, if it's coming from that gas station, it'll be lead.
Yeah.
So what has happened there at that site? Are they still working there? What has happened there?
They stopped the dewatering system. They've been setting up what is specified that they're supposed to get a permit for carbon filtering system. They've been moving all sorts of soil around. There's security on it 24/7. They're moving things around, and just literally a half a mile is where they're actually doing their HDD drilling.
So they have to bring a carbon filter system in
to filter the water that's
the
coming out of
groundwater
the
that they're going to be pumping out.
That's correct.
Okay. And you said they have to get a permit to do that?
They have to file for a permit. As far as we know, they have not filed for that permit. There should be an availability for a public comment that we're hoping for.
But didn't we see carbon filtration systems on site there today?
They started setting them up right away.
Well, not right away. But
So I see carbon filtration systems there today.
Yeah.
But they're obviously not in use.
Not yet. You know, as far as I've seen a lot of these pipeline companies work, usually once they're set up and they need to continue work, they'll just continue doing work, and if it's a fine, somebody catches them, they'll just pay the fine or even stretch it out in court for the next 10 years.
Right.
The faster they're done with this project, the faster they're pumping this gas, the faster they're going to make all that up anyway. So unless you're fining them $1 billion a day, it's really not going to affect them very much. 10,000, 20,000, you're talking really small potatoes for them violating the law, essentially.
So, but with the permit process, have you spoke with the Department of Environmental Quality and asked if they're going to allow public comment on this? Because, you know, you would think if you request it, it would happen. Have you done that yet?
We've asked for public comment. We have not gotten a response whether that's accepted. Our response has only been from them that that Rover has not filed for the permit yet.
Okay. So they're currently not dewatering at that site.
Not in that site, unfortunately. Right across the road from that site, just the other side, 20 feet away, they are still dewatering.
So 20 feet away from where the
plume
dewatering
could be,
structure was that you've seen the sheen, the DEQ sampled the water, they're still dewatering because it's what? On the other side of the road? That's why it's allowed?
You know, because they never did any test samples from there, as far as I know. I did work on pointing them out to that area. It seems like a lot of people are doing things based on what their bosses say. Basically, there's a structure to that. So, had we said that we smelt gasoline down there, then they would have had to go and take a test sample, more likely.
So, is there a contact's name within the Department of Environmental Quality you'd like to share for the viewers? Because I, quite frankly, 20 feet from one site to another, think that they should be testing there as well. If there is a plume under there, which everything is at this point pointing to it. I mean, we can't say for certain right now, but it is pointing down that road. I would think the residents would want to know, and I would think, and this is just me, but this is common sense, I would think you wouldn't want to be pumping that plume out and then spreading it into a wetland area, which feeds into a creek.
Yeah, well, this one is actually going to the other side, so this one will be feeding right back into Silver Lake. Going right into a marsh, it's overflowing the contained structure.
So it's going into a marsh and then into a lake.
Yeah.
And this lake is Silver Lake.
Correct.
And people have docks and boats, and I imagine people swim there. I mean,
Oh yeah.
It was a beautiful beach area, so I'd imagine it probably in the summertime just fills up with recreation.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So we need a person's name then, because I think residents would want to call. I think viewers would want to call, and they would want to say, "Hey."
Well,
you know?
it depends what county. These companies like to weave these pipeline projects in between counties and cities, so that they're stuck playing. It's not mine. It's yours. It's mine. It's yours. It's your job. My job. So
You're
we
in
have
Washtenaw County there.
So we have different departments.
Essentially, the people that we have been dealing with the most is Matt Kaczynski, Matt Kay, we call him Matt Kay. And he's been the lead on it. It's the Water Resources Department. His specialty is more soil erosion, so it's not really his more understanding. Mary Miller is for Washtenaw County's R&R team, remediation and redevelopment team. So in a situation like this, I would probably be calling Mary Miller to be able to do the test samples, because as far as I've seen, I have not seen the Water Resources Department do any test samples. The R&R team is the only ones that did. So if we're pushing to get a sample done,
yeah,
I would be calling Mary Miller at the R&R department, or even some of the higher ups. I mean, sometimes we're unsure of who exactly to call in the department. We deal with two different offices. You're looking at Jackson office and Lansing office. Sometimes I'm ready to just call Heidi at the top, because at least if you're calling the top, that's their job to pick out whose responsibility it is to go check it out.
Heidi Grether.
Heidi Grether, that's
Right.
correct. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to leave her a message. You'll have to force her secretary to write down a message. She does not have an answering service, as far as I've seen, or any of the times I've tried to call.
You could also use email, and that's all available at the DEQ's website. If you're more comfortable doing that.
Absolutely.
For the viewers, rather than folks who need to. Some folks like making the phone calls, others don't.
Absolutely.
But an email would suffice.
Absolutely. There's also the calls, honestly, straight to the EPA. The National Response Center. As far as the EPA came out on Sunday. He said, well, you called the right number. Basically, our job is to take and make a report of it and then follow up on it. So if you call the National Response Center, they will...
and mention what? So if you call them, mention
you're worried about a spill that's affecting, the Pinckney area, so around the Silver Lake area. Basically, you're looking at Dexter Town Hall. Road. You're on the south side. It is a little confusing because that Silver Lake area is in what we call the entrapment zone. That whole community in Silver Lake has almost had a pipeline wall built around them. So it crosses their road, Dexter Town Hall, twice. There's a north crossing and a south crossing, which makes it a little confusing because obviously it cuts one road around the side and then the other road. So you're looking at the north crossing of Dexter Town Hall Road, the south side of that easement. The north side of that easement is the one with dewatering system that's shut down. Also happens to be 300 feet, 250 feet away from where the YMCA Kids Camp is. It's been a kind of a hot spot. That whole area behind that wraps around from Dexter Town Hall to Dexter Town Hall is the drain off of Silver Lake that goes through a wetlands that through the live feed we did a little bit earlier. We walked Desmond up to the what we now call Silver Creek that we had put on the map. Instead of flowing out like it is supposed to, it's actually flowing back up slowly back into Silver Lake. So they've effectively dammed off at this point in time Silver Lake, and everything is contained within that plume. Although they continue to do what they call metal pilings, which is jamming 30-foot metal stakes into the ground, makes relatively centralized earthquakes. All the houses in Silver Lake have been shaking for approximately 3 to 4 weeks now. through that process. It's said that they're supposed to be taking these metal pilings out. As far as we've seen, a lot of things that they say they're going to take out, if nobody's looking, they're not doing it.
And they're and so for the construction process, they're jumping all over though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like today, you had me 4, 5, 6 different spots, and they're actively working in each one of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're, I mean, it's
actively all over the place. I mean, they're trying to push this thing in the ground as fast as they can. Most of the times, a lot of the companies basically, if there's a problem, once they've done it and they're gone and the problem comes up, it's too late. There's nothing you could do about it. The damage has been done. So
Right.
We're just doing our best to stay on top of all of the problems, because otherwise this would have gone completely unnoticed. You don't know how long anything's been in there. We don't really know what's in there. There's other plumes in the area, even in Ann Arbor, that they've been basically monitoring since early 80s. So if you mix one toxicness with the other toxicness, you're just looking at vial upon vial. And a lot of these things they don't even know how to control them. The best they can do is monitor them.
okay. So in summary, what do we? Let's sum it up.
Jen, you gotta talk more here. I've been talking. I feel like I've been doing all the talking.
I watched. I gotta say, one of the things that really got my attention here was the live feed you did.
Yeah.
You did a really good live feed. Had a lot of the information, answered questions without me even asking them. Just watching, and it was a short live feed. You're on the side of the road. I don't remember where you were.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
But I was really impressed with that because it really got my attention. You were just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I know you're so vested in your community here. I mean, just this morning at breakfast, it's like everybody knew who you were. So you're well known throughout the community. You obviously really care about what's taking place here.
Yeah.
There's no personal gain in this. You're not being paid for this, are you?
No, I know. Hell no, I wish. I wish.
Okay,
No, there's
so
no personal gain.
bring us
like
home.
that.
Bring us home. Give us some conclusion here.
Conclusion is there's a violation of rights going on throughout the world with these big corporations, and they came to my small community and thought we weren't paying attention, thought we were still sleeping, but we are awake. Bottom line to me, if we can't stop this, Energy Transfer's partners I have ill feelings with. Rover itself is haphazard, Precision Pipeline haphazard and mistakes. If we can't, stop it, we got to add odorant. We got to make sure there's evacuation routes. We got to make sure people, when they buy a piece of property, that they're aware what they're purchasing. We need to set the standards and how these corporations deal with the small towns, because if we all just look the other way, these mistakes are just going to spread like the plague or a bad rash. If they come to your town, or if they're in my town, so if people in my town stand up and watch them and hold them accountable, then we can help set the standards to protect other people. So if that's the only thing that's said and done, me personally, I guess that's my personal gain there, is if I just protect as hard as I can and I help one other person in the future, then I'll have succeeded. In the end, I'll sleep good knowing if something catastrophic like these explosions that we see on the internet and TV, if that happened, I can look around and say I did everything I could possibly do to make this safer and make everyone more aware. So it is clearly violating our water, our rights to clean water, eminent domain. This is Energy Transfer's Rover Pipeline, the same one that headed on the issues in Standing Rock and hired goons to attack people and just harm them. So Energy Transfers in itself should not be allowed to do business. And I'm not going to sit idle when they come to my town. So that's my bottom line. That's my big picture. This chain of lakes, I tell you guys all the time, Portage, Zuki, Gallagher, Whitewood, Hell Portage Creek. Like, We have to stand up for them. If my local community members, how much would you know if me and my group didn't tell you? Would you know about the reroute? Would you know about the gasoline? Would you know about that they spilled in Ohio? I don't know. So that's my bottom line. And it's not too late to act either. Even though everywhere we turn, these easements are just nasty at every corner, at every body of water we love here, it's not too late. And I'm not backing down. And it would really be cool if everybody had the same mental capacity that I have about this, pulling at my heartstrings. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
Yeah.
I just, folks are chiming in, saying thank you, and you're doing the good work.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't agree more. You guys you're awesome. I mean, you're pillars.
Frontline boots. This is what
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground looks like. And we're just really, I'm the person that I see the old man walking down my road on a regular basis and he can't make it up the hill, the stranger. I pick him up and give him a ride. I'm the person that stops on the side of the road to somebody and says, "Are you okay?" I'm that person, and that person also cares if we explode. 42 inches was just a smack in our face.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing has taken a lot of sacrifice, but that's part of
Big
what it takes.
sacrifice on our parts. A
And
shout out to my family and friends.
Jen's got a beautiful family.
Yes.
Beautiful
family.
family.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
and
Security. And this has been kind of a day in and day out. They said that Desmond mentioned these guys are moving all over the place. They're all working over here and over here and over here and over here and over here, and you're not looking over here, and you get a call saying, "Hey, wait a second, they're spilling. They just had a truck that's just been dumping stuff for 2 miles down the road. Okay, just spraying hydraulic fluid everywhere."
And then we got to jump in our car, and I grab my book bag and my camera, my binoculars, my boots, my waders, and I've got some more gear I need, and we go and we find it. Like, if we weren't doing that, I'm scared. What else are we missing? What, between the two of us and the few other handful of people that we have, what else are we missing? The HDD process has begun, you guys. That's the same thing that screwed the Tuscarora River up in Ohio. 5 million gallons.
Break that acronym down for viewers who may not know.
HDD, horizontal directional drilling. It's the process that they use to get under rivers and
freeways, and the process that they use to get under Lake Aho.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
And that's basically the process that everybody was worried about at Standing Rock, was that process puts all of the water.
And that's the process that is currently taking place right now.
That's
currently, yes, and you can hear it.
Makes me want to cry.
Yeah, I can hear it in the background. I doubt our viewers can, because my mics went down earlier, and I'm just using the mic off the unit here. But
yeah, so
we gotta watch. We just gotta keep our eyes peeled. Like you had said, a spill in the road, we're on it. These are community members reaching out to us. So kudos to my community members that were like, "Oh shit, that doesn't look right," and they hit up the overwithrover.com or Gmail or the Michigan Residents Against the ET Rover Pipeline page. But it's just kind of scary.
So here's a question, which is a
good,
really
and I
good
want to
one
answer
too.
their questions.
So Angelina asks, what kind of support do you need from the community at large?
Well, I mean, at large, we really still want boots on the ground everywhere. I mean, that's the greatest support in the world.
So you need more eyes?
We need more eyes. I mean, people need to be taking pictures and vigilant on watching these guys absolutely everywhere. It's the only way to keep them in check and keep them at least what they're doing it to keep them safe. We notice it commonly. One of two things happens a lot of time when we walk up to these easements. Either they stop what they're doing and start fixing a bunch of the things that are supposed to be fixed, okay? Or they just walk away from the site because they don't want to have us there when they do something that they might make a mistake on, something goes off, so they will actually keep one person there and visually watch you while the other people all walk away.
Yeah.
So how can somebody find you guys then? Because the question is, what group are you a part of? And basically you're your own group, but
There's
does
a
your group
couple-
have a name, and do you have a Facebook page?
We have Michigan Residents Against ET Rover Gas Pipeline on Facebook. We have, even though we're frontline and you see us a lot and we're on social media, we actually have a nice backing behind us of community members and people from Michigan and actually people from around the world, in a sense, backing us and helping us with the reaching out to the senators, you know.
So there's a website called Over with Rover, and then one of the great things that people could do as a simple sharing thing is, and if you want to educate yourself about it, the Over with Rover site has essentially been an archive of all the things a lot of things that have been done over the last 3 years. That includes press releases, senators making statements and making resolutions, congressmen making resolutions, county commissioners making resolutions, newspaper articles that date back for a while. All of that stuff needs to kind of resurface again. Slowly, basically, all of it, everything up there is PDF files, so you can take and you can share them publicly, because a lot of the things that we've been saying about there not being enough studies, we've gotten our local officials to agree with us and say, you know what, they just did this, there was not enough studies done, nobody knew about this happening. You know, finding this gas plume was a prime example. The community would have told them that there was an old gas station there if they gave them an opportunity to comment. They didn't even know. There was a last-minute route switch.
So no public hearing.
There was no public hearing on it, and there was no chance for the community to actually tell them, hey, wait a second. Did you guys know that there was a gas station here? So a lot of the things that we've been saying for, you know, really back to 3 years are all, we just found more evidence of what we've been saying. So there's been a community that's been very active for a long time, in trying to talk and going through every legitimate step of going to the county commissioners meetings and having them do a resolution, of going to Washington, D.C. to have our senators talk to FERC and say, listen, this is not okay, there wasn't enough studies done, having lawyers file paperwork. That stuff, we're going back out there because it's all about an education process. We're educating ourselves every single day through this process, and we're learning every single day. That's the biggest thing that everybody can do abroad, is continue to educate yourself about it so that we're aware of what to look for, because we don't always know what to look for.
Sure.
We didn't expect to find gasoline. It wasn't something to ever think about, and all of a sudden it was, wait a second, that's gasoline. Like, that's not rocket science. That just is what it is. And so there's a lot more basic things as you start to educate yourself and start to look at. The more you look at the different things, the more you will notice the inaccuracies. And those are the things that we will essentially catch them on, and actually will make our fight stronger, because if nobody's aware of this, we just have to make ourselves aware of it.
And I see like John and Wendy, they're doing a really good job sharing links and stuff into this feed. So folks, when we end this feed, if you could take a look at this while this is still fresh on your mind, and continue to share it. Another thing I want to ask that you do is, everybody's a part of groups. So if you can post this video into the various groups, because truly what I'm trying to accomplish today, I'm over 4 hours away, so it's kind of hard to get down here as often as I'd like. But my goal is to be able to reach out to the largest audience and raise awareness. Allow you guys to put it out there, to share your truth, and raise awareness. So if you can help us by sharing into groups as well, not just sharing on your page, but clicking the share button, scrolling down, inviting people to the feed, and then the more people see that, the more people will see the links, and we can start to generate that buzz and really create the awareness.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of, if you know people in Michigan that are close, we're always looking for, extra people. We're looking for lawyers, we're looking for geologists. We're kind of over our heads on information. We need people that know how to research. We've been so busy being out there, we can't even get through the photographs that we've taken, essentially.
With violations that need to be reported.
Reported every single day.
Like, we're backed up. That so many violations, we can't even keep up with reporting them.
So there you have it.
Yeah.
You know, and this is a fight that clearly goes all across the country. I was out at Standing Rock for a lot that already know me. I was out there for almost 5 months, essentially. You know, I did not really expect Energy Transfer Partners to be in my backyard when I got home, and I'll tell you what, I got back, I went to Flint, and I came here. I was like,
I know. He was
I've had
like,
2 projects
I
since I've
remember
been
when
back.
you came to our first meeting, and I was like, oh, sweet patches, man. I'm like, so what's up? Where are you from? Because we got to be kind of guarded. You know, we have PIs come in for Rover and spy on our meetings, and I didn't think you were a spy, but I wasn't sure, so I vetted you. I'm not gonna lie. Anybody, you got anyone coming in your life, vet them and vet them good. I happen to vet really hard, so. But then you had said you were like, I just got back from Standing Rock. What the hell's going on here? And I was like, there's a company called Energy Transfers, and Matt was like, are you kidding me? Kind of like, I just left to come back to this, and, you know, it was like an awesome...
I was like, man, I got my
serendipity.
arraignment next week. Okay, I got to go
Yeah, I
back,
know,
and then I'll be
right?
back right afterwards,
I
okay?
remember,
Let's
yeah.
get to business. Come on.
So, I mean, your knowledge from Standing Rock really just brought a different dynamic to my community, because imagine if it was just me by myself. This would really blow. And I have backup.
You know, I was really fortunate to come into the Michigan Residents Against ET Rover Gas Pipeline group. You know, when I got back, I started I saw some newspaper articles, and they talked about the tree clearing for the project, and I started to dig everywhere. Wait, who's got their eyes on this? Who's got their eyes on this? I found one No Rover group in Ohio, and Michigan Resident Against ET Rover, and I was like, they're having a meeting tomorrow. I'm going. And I jumped in the car and I headed out there, and that's where they all kind of met me, and I kind of, you know, I was kind of quiet sometimes, not quiet the other times, and I just, every meeting after that, I was just there to help answer questions and kind of help until we were ready to go to the next level of, okay, what else can we do? What else can we do? You know, we were working on, you know, the county commissioners and getting them on board with everything, trying to let the local community know, doing rallies, and it just was a build-up and a build-up, and I'm very honored to be working with such an amazing community, quite honestly, because Michigan people are really great. Honestly, it's one of the things. I've traveled a lot in this country, and you know, after living out for California for years, I know everybody's dream is to go live out in California, but they really just don't. You know, I love y'all Californians, I do, but there's a belief in California that's different than in Michigan. We don't, here in Michigan, we don't believe fences make our best neighbors. We really like to know our neighbors. We like to share our lawnmowers with them. You know, somebody needs something, we like to keep the yards without fences so that if there's a party, we can use both yards. We can have a big football game that can go from yard to yard to yard, you know, and that's just the way the people are here in Michigan, which is something that's very honorable, and I really appreciate about the state.
Awesome. Well, you know, I want to wrap things up. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And John says, yes, please share in the group.
Wait, oh, it's got to go to the rocket. We got to go to the rocket. Go up, go up.
What?
Okay, you go up, okay, and I'm going to do the thing, okay?
What?
Watch.
Already lost.
Oh.
There you go. All right.
Oh,
So, folks, again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing this out. Please check out the website. Please check out the Facebook group.
And Up Hell's Creek is the other camp page.
Up Hell's Creek is another camp page.
Follow Jennifer. She's got
you
one
can
of our...
follow Jennifer Huds Nels as long as you're not pro pipeline and you don't work for those goons I mentioned, please. Thank you.
I'm extremely, you know, I've known Chef now for quite a bit, but I'm extremely honored to meet you. I'm very thankful for all of your hard work. Definitely thankful for all your hard work. You know, this has been eye-opening for me, and
we thank you for your hard work
you.
as well.
Yeah, thank you.
it's nothing to stand back here and talk. I mean, it really isn't. You're out there every day. You guys are out
Checking
there with
the damn
cameras.
creek before I can come eat. I'm like, what? No, I don't have time for this. I gotta go check the thing that went down.
Yeah, she met us down to the cafe this morning, and then couldn't even come in right away. And it's like, hey, we've been up since like 4 o'clock in the morning. We want to eat something. She's like, well, I got to go check the creek. So I mean, the dedication is just amazing.
We took these guys on some hikes. I mean, they kind of saw some stuff
And
they
that's
were,
a day. Welcome
we're not
to
expecting.
a day in our life, Desmond. This has been our whole summer.
Yeah, this is you're incredible. Again, I'm just gonna put it out there. You're both awesome, and It's what everybody should strive to be. So
I just say, come on, wake up, warrior.
I know,
you know,
right?
and I gotta give a shout out here to Sandy. Sandy's allowed me to have access to the Environmental Coffee House Facebook page to share, you know, important things like this. And thank you so much, Sandy, for
Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, for, you know, sharing this beautiful platform
Thank you, Sandy.
with us, so we can put this type of information out, because it's important, it's critical. You know, in my language, I say miigwech, and that means thank you. So I say miigwech to everybody for tuning in. And we don't have a word for goodbye. Our word is bama pi, which means we'll see you again. And that's how I like to end my feed. So I'm going to say bama pi. You guys got a send off or anything? There you go. See y'all later.